Why does that GarbageWoman and TemuTele and blah bot? Why do they cry so much? Place and scar.
People run like giant lemmings headed for the sea. Borders of imagination keeping them from seeing things. Ancient gods engraving fortresses of old ideas. Standing guard on treasure that has long since disappeared from use. We have got to find something better. People, we got to find something better. People run like giant lemmings, they don't see the sun. Shadow pictures drive them on and keep them on the run. Nights and days long, stand on a nearby hill. Shafts of gleaming light and high, and no one sees them still. We have got to find something better. People, we got to find something better. going far away, the words ring like a bell. Stories, poems, books, and songs have used those words and use them still. Long ago and far away is where most of us dwell. Time's chased us all away, left in pity and never spell. Ah, we have got to find something better. Ah, people, we got to find something better.
Doorways and people and involvement, secret societies, and the agenda there is kind of a miniature glimpse of a global attempt.
And what's interesting also is it seems like God set the framework up that these demons and other fallen angels can't seem to enter our plane effectively without and maybe not any other way except for through our will. So there's just onslaught of trying to find different unique ways to get us to give our wills to bring them into the, and they'll trade us off, throw a Wicca a bone, here or there just because they summoned them into their plane.
Right.
Do you find that it is contingent upon the human beings' wills for them to operate on our level at this point?
Absolutely. The will has to be involved, and an unaided will that begins to have some of the light level experiences, moves to the next and the next and the next. And that's how left-hand path, occultism is anyway. Initiation begins with lighter level stuff and continues to move you down that grid. When we did infiltrate the Black Sun camp at the OTO here, we got as far as them eventually inviting us to Chicago to, go through a ritual in which we would be placed in a room that had symbols. I suppose it might have been Masonic, maybe their own. I don't know. But they would have a reader there that would read a story. And we would each have to be a character in that story, and anything the reader read, we had to do. Now, this is where they would observe your moral structure, because in the biblical picture of the satanic breakdown, the moral structure has to be broken in order for the spiritual deception to take place and the willingness to occur. So in the OTO, they're observing. If you're, for example, if you're playing the part of Fred or whatever, and it says now Fred will go over and have sex with John. Well, if you're, weren't gay or whatever else, if you're going to become a part, if you're going to come through that initiation, you have to do everything that you're told within that reading of that story. Now, the story is set up to, number one, weed out anybody who's not willing to go that direction, because the next initiation would be even deeper. No one's going to get invited to a human sacrifice of black mass out of the blue. It will happen in degrees, and people that come out of it, that we've led out of it, that's how the history that they were brought into it. Unless they were, a child brought into it, that's a whole nother thing. But people who willingly given themselves and gone down that path, but going down that path, they do become convinced. Satan is not the bad guy. Lucifer is the light bearer. He's the good guy. He was cheated. He gets to come back. He's going to be the one to eventually amaze the world with brilliance, knowledge, political savvy, economic abilities. He'll make the world one. And so David Spangler, father of the New Age and so forth, talks about a Luciferic invocation, which was even done at the UN. So doors keep getting open on all levels, and the will sometimes is opened, I want to say willingly, and sometimes, again, on the demonic side, you can never trust they're telling you the truth.
Right. I mean,
you can never trust. If we understand the art of deception, they are the masters. They are the founders. Jesus said, Satan, when he lies, he speaks his native language. No truth left in him. He's disintegrated into just that. People have asked me over the years, Chris, do I believe Satan really believes he'll win? I do at this point. From all that I've seen on the demonic realm, and I've heard them scream at me and yell at me and say things, I do believe they think they can pull it off.
Now, let's talk about that. What specifically do you say when driving out a demon? Take us through the process a little bit.
Well, sure. The bottom line for it is Luke 10. Jesus said very clearly in the perfect tense in the Greek that he has given every believer in Christ authority to trample. Literally, this is very powerful. To trample, the demonic realm, to overcome. The Greek word Nike, meaning a decisive victory. So when a real believer understands that and acknowledges and appropriates that authority, when they do encounter a demonic presence, it's always done in an oral sense, spoken. Matter of fact, almost like 99.9% of the time, Jesus never touched a demonized person. When we deal with it, it's just a simple thing of, sometimes we already know that it's there prior to even calling it up or commanding it to come forward, because they usually can tell who we are before we can tell who they are. If they're in a person, they're looking, they're spotting, we have to realize that they are real entities with superior abilities. They are the founders of telekinesis and clairvoyance and all those kind of powers that they give to individuals. And so they're already reading me sometimes before I get into a room or when I walk into a room. But with discernment, the Spirit of God, there's times you can feel it, sense it, know it. God gives me a word, and then we go into commanding it to come forward without harming the person. That's part of the process. Sometimes if they just manifest openly, like has happened a number of times, or even through the person to the ground, we immediately command you, not to harm the individual, not to harm anybody else in the room. You will be contained. It's literally just giving orders because of the authority of Jesus. When I was a Buddhist Taoist, that was never, before I became a Christian, nobody ever taught us that kind of stuff. And spirits, it was a whole different world. Demons don't listen to any other name. They don't listen to any other authority. But when a real believer with that authority exercises that orally, Um, and then you can feel the presence of Christ literally coming and striking. It's almost like you can feel a rush of the power of God. That's when the demons scream, literally, just like the scriptures. They scream, they agonize. Sometimes they want out of there quick. And sometimes, but that's when we'll say, no, not until, you tell, sometimes the Lord will give me a discernment that there's 13 spirits. And I'll say, how many's there? You need to tell me the truth. And they'll say 7. And this happens often. And we'll say, no, there's 13, and, you're lying, God. And there's been times we'd say, we're going to send you to the abyss. They fear, that's one thing, Chris, they fear, absolutely fear going to the abyss. None of them ever want to. Some of them just want to cuss you out and get out of there. Many of them are afraid that higher ups in the demonic realm, including Satan himself, may, judge them or harm them or do things to them if they tell anything. Or they'll get in trouble for losing a battle. To them, it's all real war. It's real stuff. It's real entities. There's been times where I've seen we had 5 officers in the room with a guy that we believe killed 2 girls here locally, in just a horrific slaughtering ritual. When he showed up, he first came after me to attack. And then when all the officers brought him to the ground, he was leg chained and arm chained. And then he would go completely limp and quiet. Then he would look up like himself and say, what's going on? He was very passive. And if you start to get close to him, you can see instantly the change. And this horrific voice screamed out in front of all the officers, we are the legions that shall rule the earth. Got it again, and the officers, of course, just picked him up, legs and arms, and took him to a psych ward.
Is there anything specifically not to do during an exorcism or encounter?
Yeah, I would. It very clearly, I would say, as a believer, that really no, non-believers shouldn't try. If they don't bear the person and authority of Jesus Christ, they will get harmed. Because the demons, they'll play games at first or whatever else, but they will end up getting harmed. I would say what not to do is, don't take your attention off of what's going on. Never believe the demons, even if they act like they're crying and they want your sympathy. It's always a game. You never can believe them.
Are some demons harder to cast out than others, and what do you attribute to that?
Yeah, I believe there's some that are more powerful in that whole hierarchy of spirits. For example, again, in light level Wiccan stuff that we've seen people come in. We had a girl come in and I looked at her and she couldn't hardly talk to me. I said, are the spirit, are they talking to you? And she shook her head yes. And I said, are they wanting you to get out of this room? And she shook her head yes. So immediately I just began to pray, and of course she was thrown to the ground. But it was over in 5 minutes. The mother was there, and it was done. Now, in cases of satanic ritual abuse or in really heavy-duty stuff, especially where a priestess or somebody wants the powers and they have gained what they call power demons, the higher the ritual, what I mean by that is that's why some rituals are designed to carry out human torture for an hour. There's one ritual that deals with sexual, engaging a person sexually to heighten the sexual energy, to at the same time continue to cut a person, stab a person, draw blood, to where you're literally having them totally horrified, along with the sexual energy, the fear energy, all of that. It culminates what they call the third power when they finally will then kill. Again, here's their belief. Because the demons feed off of human energy, to me that means the more, quote, energy, the more open the doors are for the demons to come, the more you've appeased them, that bigger, more powerful demons are attracted to bigger and more ugly type of rituals. We've seen that over the years that some demons do. They seem very light level, very unable to do any kind of battle or stay, and they're out of there in 2-3 minutes. There's been times where we've had to really engage. And power demons also know how to draw in and have under them many lesser demons. So you might be dealing with 60 demons at a time under the ruling power, under the ruling spirit, who will constantly push out the little ones to be dealt with first. using them really as demonic fodder in a battle to keep themselves hidden.
At that point, do you just continue to pray, or does it intensify? Does the Holy Spirit give you words to say? And
yeah, it can really be different in this sense. In regular deliverance stuff, where there is maybe that's where the Spirit of God gives a discernment, and sense, and we'll go after. And I always tell, in our training, we tell individuals, command the ruling, most powerful, the ruling demon to come forward. If you know there's more than one, and usually there's more than one, it could be 2 or 3, it could be 50. But command the ruling spirit to come forward, and that when you get ready to cast that demon out, commanding it to take in all the demons that it brought with it, so that 50 can go out at one time. That's, that takes a little bit more time, because you might end up dealing with 2 or 3 other demons first. You're waiting on the Spirit of God to give you insight and all that's going on. So that might take a little more time. And they may try a lot of other tricks that we've learned over the years. But now on the other side, again, here's a Monarch Project individual from Fort Bragg that's been through stuff with Colonel Shannon, stuff with Michael Aquino, stuff with all these other guys back then. They knew Gottlieb, they knew Esther Brooks, all this kind of stuff. They're very high powered. They're coming from a high powered coven. They came down to literally do battle. They were sitting next to me in the vehicle. I continued to feel an antsy feeling. I knew it was, was in something inside the person was already, beginning to surface and create really, it was just really bad. And I inwardly, without verbally saying anything, I began to pray against that. And out of this person's mouth, they just said blank cuss, at me and said, cut that out. And I looked at them and I said, what? And the person looked at me and said, what? And I said, well, what you just said. And they said, I didn't say anything. So inwardly, I began to pray again. And the same voice came out and said, cussed again and said, cut it out. So I began to pray outwardly this time, out loud. And all of a sudden, this individual went into this chant. It sounded Arabic. They were calling on, the only name I could understand was Aramane. And they were calling on the powers of Aramane to come and aid them. And I've never seen, this is a person that came down. It was like they came to test our abilities and to test the powers. And they really felt they can call on big powers. And that went on. I got louder. They got louder. And it's not so much that a Christian has to get louder. Jesus would usually, he didn't have to scream or yell. He would say that he spoke to him sternly, or he used the Greek word ek, just simply a command, a point blank command. Now, in that case, it just kept going. They kept getting louder, so I just kept praying, and I wouldn't stop. It was just a constant, nonstop praying and commanding, and it was like a fist fight spiritually. It just, where fists were flying. But then all of a sudden they grabbed their head and shut up. They jumped out of the car, they threw up, and they ran off, and they were gone for about an hour. And that was pretty, and here's the problem. There's a lot of that person there is called a chosen one. Or they would call themselves a satanic super soldier or a warrior monk type thing. And they're trained for that kind of battle. Part of their training is to learn how to hide the demonic presence through human shielding of the personalities.
And here the body of Christ is totally unprepared for it. Sometimes I think that God sending Jesus is something so creative, so profound, so technical of a play, of a move by God that it's hard to understand. And a lot of Christians only understand it as a catchphrase, i.e. Jesus died on the cross for our sins.
Sure.
And it's okay to accept that by faith. We're even encouraged to do so, but something just universe shattering happened there, and something that requires a serious study to understand. Can you help us understand the mechanics of why we have authority over evil now?
Sure. Well, it deals, I think, with human genetics and our spiritual, who we are. In Genesis 3, after the fall, the proto-evangelium was spoken by God that the Messiah would come eventually, and though he would have his heel bitten, he would crush the head of the serpent. Now, from that point on, again, here's what I think, again, a lot of even Christians understand. And again, they don't have to go read 1,000 other books, and that's fine to research. We've done a lot of research, but biblical revelation, once again, spells it out. The demonic side knew way back then that someone was coming. And sometimes Christians don't understand the fact that this is historic. This is just as the prophets were searching by the Spirit of Christ when these things would occur, just as there were 300 prophecies, including born in Bethlehem, born of a virgin, on and on and on. His bones wouldn't be broken. 1,000 years in advance, Psalm 16 declares the resurrection. All these biblical prophecies were for our benefit to understand and identify the Messiah the first time, let alone the second time, which I think that's going to be unmistakable. But the other side of that is that it's very clear that Satan knows the Bible backward and forward. He understands God's agenda. He knows what God is doing. So when anybody reads Revelation 12, primarily the Revelation, when it refers to Satan as the dragon, the ancient dragon, it's the full force of who he is. Well, he's standing there in front of Israel, waiting for the Christ child to be born. It's very clear that he knew the Christ child was coming, that he was prepared, that he was in Israel visibly. I mean, not visibly, but literally he was there. Obviously, he was there at the birth. And it says right in Revelation 12, he was there to devour the Christ child. He had to do everything he could. So here's what's very important for us all to know. He knows prophecy. He knows it all the way to the end of the book. What he's doing now is in preparation for Revelation 19:19. One of the reasons he's creating people, one of the reasons for the mark of the beast, one of the reasons for gathering nations together, it's not just for his rule alone. It's for his gathering the biggest army in human history, the most advanced army in human history. Revelation 19:19 says the beast brings, and this is after Revelation 16, where the dragon, the beast, the false prophet, in pure ritualistic form, send out demons, to the kings of the earth, those who've already given themselves over, to gather them together for the great day of God Almighty. Well, what is that day? That's not Armageddon, where nations fight against nations. That is the day, Revelation 19:19, where those armies are gathered together to do one thing: to fight the descent of the Lamb of God in his return, his visible return. They're there for one reason: gathered in the Middle East as a physical, spiritual, super spiritual, satanic army or whatever. It's for one reason and one reason alone. And that is to stop the descent, because Satan knows the prophecy, Chris. He knows what's coming. And so what we need to do is back up now and look at some of the biblical prophecy that God strategically has given. And you're going to see that Luciferians and writers, even past writers who all get bits and pieces from so-called ascended masters, that they're getting the agenda spelled out towards that day. So everything tells us in biblical prophecy or among real Luciferians, we have to grab political power. We have to grab military power. We have to grab economic power. We have to grab numbers. We have to eradicate or eliminate as many on the opposite side as possible. Eventually, we have to have all of Israel, Jerusalem, and we have to be amassed there. What's the reason behind that? Because there's a biblical prophecy of the visible return of Christ coming there to that very spot in Israel. And so when I think in terms of scientists right now, when those ideas pop into their heads to create new weapons or this technology, I believe the technology for the mark of the beast will come out of inspiration that occurs in mill labs. And it will come directly from that side into development, the progressive development of the ingathering of the largest. That's the satanic endgame.
We're talking with Russ Dizdar of ShatterTheDarkness.net. Russ, you do a number of audio seminars and things teaching people and pastors how to be spiritual warriors. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. We've done them locally in different places, a few states and stuff. We've done things, but we decided that because, for the advantage of many more people getting a hold of stuff, we began to take those courses and put them on the internet. One's called Confronting the Powers. One's called The Black Awakening. They can be anywhere from 10, 12, 13 to 25 hours of separate, lectures, seminar lectures, along with just the notes of an outline, like for the whole course and some resources. So we put them on the web. I think there's four right now. There's 5 right now, and the 6th one's coming pretty soon. So there's courses that can be gotten and gone over, in that sense. Other than that, we do local ones, and from time to time, we get invited to go places to do them. And so it's all about exposing, training, sharing the stuff and getting people prepared, along with the other side of our work is just primarily evangelism and dealing with victims and dealing with a lot of victims direct.
Right. You do a lot of really great things. The podcast is great. I know a lot of people listen to this show like to listen to podcasts, and you produce one every so often. It's just, and that's great. Again, you can get that at shatterthedarkness.net.
Sure, there's a lot of free ones out there, and I think somehow on the net, because we just kind of fell into this as far as individuals like you doing this kind of format and then putting it out there, and sometimes I'll get a call after something's been out on the web a year ago, and someone said, "Well, I heard this," or they'll email me or whatever, and it's kind of amazing, Chris, how it works, and providential too. That Luciferian Satanists, they write us too. Victims write us, and it involves in. Sometimes we've done deliverance over the phone with, like, we had a guy from Canada. We have people in the courses from Australia, England, United States. A lot of people know that something's in the air and it's ominous, and that they know it's headed a certain direction.
Do you anticipate the Black Awakening, as you call it, to be something unmistakable when it happens, or do you think it's just a gradual build up, i.e., people dabbling more and more and opening more doors?
I think the Black Awakening, as they describe it, I think the Bible describes it as a great revolt in 2 Thessalonians 2. I think it'll be as a surprise and shock, but also as something that is totally unmistakable, just like, say, 9/11. That day, all of a sudden, when I heard about it and I turned the TV on and I'm seeing the power burn, then I got to watch live the second plane, hit. That was astounding to see all that. Then all what occurred, with and I live close to Cleveland, where one of the planes was on the way here, and we were hearing reports. So that was unmistakable. Now, again, the Black Awakening, you got to understand, it has been something that works directly from our tracking 50, 60 years. It is, in our view, a long-term, historic Luciferian goal that's now coming to final manifestation. It'll be so unmistakable, but it will also be politically, militarily unstoppable. It will occur, and that's. It's not to say it's not about being fatalistic. It's about, God, when God shows the future, he's not just saying it's fatalistic in the sense that he made it happen. No, he's also just showing what mankind has opened up to. And Bob Rosio, in his book, Hitler in the New Age, one of the greatest phrases that I've spoken it 1,000 times probably, the phrase that he put in his book was, deception always leads to destruction. And that's true. That's true about the Luciferian agenda, and so the deception that's going on now, which, again, the New Age movement, the largest cultic movement in the history of Christianity, but that's seemingly nothing compared to what's underneath, but it has prepared the way. The frog and the kettle approach, progressive thing, like you mentioned, it's been here, but the strike that's going to hit, it's going to hit so hard and so fast and so broad and so unilaterally that that there will be such a collapse. But that's not the end game. It's not about Satan wanting to destroy, because he still needs the next step. And the next step is to gain the powers and the loyalty, and to gain a new system and a rule and a reign. But then there's a next step after that.
Do you anticipate all the laws of spiritual warfare still being in play and still being in effect? Like our Holy Spirit? Yeah.
Yeah, I sure do. It doesn't matter. Even if it occurred today, obviously many people lose their lives, just like on 9/11, stuff like that, and other things. I suspect that millions will lose their lives, because in that process that we've dealt with, we've learned that they've already, they have sleepers planted, law enforcement, government, military bases, whatever. There's going to be sabotage. People will lose their lives because in the process of the chaos, they look at it as a ritual, because they see it as a bloodbath that draws more powers. It'll be conjured. I mean, the Black Awakening will not occur without rituals being done. It will be a satanic release. It'll be a satanic Pentecost. And it will be something that unleashes such dark powers along with the chaotic stuff. But in the process of all that anarchy, they already know who they want to eliminate and get out of the way, who'd be resistors and so forth. That's already an issue concerning their sleeper assassins. They already target, they take pictures, they observe, they place. That's why they're in hundreds and thousands of churches in the United States. You take out pastors, you take out leadership. That's why they're in government. That's why they're in FBI, the feds. That's why they're in military and on bases. You need to take out those who might be able to form some level of resistance.
Let's talk about that. There being a lot of times the pastors, the youth group, ministers, the choir leaders, they have an agenda, and that is to infiltrate these churches and things. In your experience, have they done it effectively? And I am reminded of a story I heard you tell about praying in church and having an old woman in the front row mentioning having a demon or something to that effect. Maybe that be appropriate as well.
Sure. Yeah, that can happen in a lot of places. As a matter of fact, I think I went to a lot of churches to preach, and sometimes, and it wasn't so much of the church that I used to pastor would do this purposely, but we were just committed to evangelism, healing, deliverance. It was all in the same boat for us, in the sense that we look at it as the holistic ministry of Jesus, that's what he did, that's what he trained, and that's what we should be prepared for. So when we had folks in our fellowship, when we would have certain services, when we would sense it, we would pray. If there's anything here, anybody has a voice in their head, or we would command the manifestation of any demonic presence. Well, that's definitely brought people down to the altar for prayer for light level stuff, but it's also caused immediate manifestation right in the middle of the church. Now, what's true about the chosen ones, or satanic sleepers, is that we get called. I mean, we've been tracking. They're in so many churches, but they may be there in the choir. They may be there, helping out, because the sub-level personalities that are loyal to the covenant, loyal to that dark side, they know what's going on. The up-front person may be completely amnesic. They might just be going to church and think, man, I really like this, or maybe even Christian programming put in their head. And that's really tough, because, again, overwhelmingly the body of Christ is not trained to detect that. The good news is God knows what's going on. He knows the Judas Project issue is right in the center of the church again. But they're highly trained. When they come in, they know how to, their goal is to, start unleashing powers. They're doing reconnaissance. They're finding out where leadership lives. They're wanting to get involved with leadership. They want to compromise leadership. So there might be something that a front person just, they feel like they need counseling. They feel whatever, very pitiful, and you begin to help them. But on the flip side of the inside, the co-conscious, cult loyal, demonized, powerful personality is peering out, probably doing rituals, maybe giving gifts, demonized objects that are gifts, all to weaken the church. I think during the 90s, in so many of the cases, they were seeing how far they can go without being detected. They were seeing how much warfare they can do with just, causing churches to collapse or have internal problems or bring a pastor down. But ultimately, we'll deal with even the issue of sleeper assassins and more destruction. But gosh, I don't want to say they're in every single church, but our experience at this point is, for example, there's a large church here. It's got probably 10,000 members, and they're a very strong evangelical church, but definitely not strong in the area of spiritual warfare discernment. And we've done over 100 some cases of deliverance. There are people coming to our offices, multiples that have come to us. We've tried to talk to the leadership. They just will not go this direction. So in that church, you've got high, cult loyal multiples that have even taught Sunday school, that are involved, and they're there for a reason.
Do you find and the sort of the flip side of that, do they infiltrate, let's say, certain televangelistic things to just make it look bad, to make it look ridiculous? I feel like there is some of that going on, and
I think there's no question that, concerning that, because, and that might even be true concerning the PTL case with the woman. I can't say that yet, but there's some indicators that tells me that this woman involved may have been multiple. And that means they may have had a handler with, highly sexually trained, sexually energized personalities on the inside, along with warfare that would go against leadership to fatigue them, to bring confusion, to bring headaches. They hit, and one of them used the term, we use blitzkrieg warfare, or lightning warfare, something the Nazis used to talk about. But they kind of weaponized this spiritually to hit hard and strike in multiple, from multiple vantage points. And so we've seen churches go down. I've seen some good churches go down. Now, they will target churches that might seem more powerful. Matter of fact, again, the one from Fort Bragg, when we dealt with them for a number of years, and a lot of stuff we discussed, but they brought back materials once, and they drew out right in front of my face one time, Bohemian Grove and all the different places, and drew out little underground places in the Owl. This is back in 1994. They drew out all the stuff there and talked about the ritual being real and wanting to release powers that many of those people that kind of have no idea what's happening to them, to be influenced. So I think that, and this same person, talked about how all of Northeast Ohio was grid mapped, that they color code the churches, and the ones that they think are a problem, they will do warfare from their covens against them. And they understand targeted spiritual warfare. They've been doing it for years. That's what a ritual's all about, targeted. Conjure the spirits, you send them in a specific way, you're charging them for a particular thing to go after, to confuse, to bring, sickness, death, whatever. If that's not working well enough, then they send people there to begin to get involved and to begin to create havoc.
And you do the same thing. You speak of targeting prayer-wise, specific targeting. Can you speak a little bit about that and how you feel about that?
Sure. We, back when in dealing specifically this person out of Pennsylvania, we dealt with 100 folks out of Pennsylvania. Their chosen ones are, really highly trained satanic, warrior type monks. When I began to see this back in the late 80s and early 90s, and I began to just look at, because we understood in deliverance, and we were already doing stuff, and we understood prayer and the level of spiritual warfare, but as I dealt with it, the Lord brought to my mind one time a specific verse, and I went and looked up the original Greek, and it was thesis. It means there's a difference between just general praying and specific. I mean, like you write it down type praying. You're writing exactly, what you want. So we begin to apply that to, as we pray for souls, pray for revival, pray for spiritual awakening, pray for healing, pray for whatever. We include as a normal part of all of our praying against, praying for the exposure of, and any piece of information. And it's kind of like what I did to kind of, I don't want to say test it, but, I just began to follow what I felt led. I began to, take any bit of information I got from victims coming out of covens, of individuals, places, whatever, and then put it on paper, just write it out. And begin to use that page as like a little journal, and I would, pray through that, and I would thunder the prayers and targeting for exposure, whatever, I felt, whether it was they were doing a ritual on a certain night, or whether there's a person, they kept calling them by name, and we never did find them. So we began to put their names, addresses, places, all the information, praying for God to give a confirmation, or God to expose, or God to bring about providential, face-to-face meetings with some of these people, or their coven sites. And then target the ritual times, and target the high priests, and target the types of rituals. Now, when we begin to do this individual comes back from Pennsylvania. They popped out of the car. This officer brought him down, and they got out of the car, and first they began to yell at me immediately, saying, what are you doing? You're blankety blank, spiritual warfare stuff. And inwardly, I just knew immediately. I just smiled and said, "Why? What do you mean?" And I wouldn't tell him what we were doing, but I just said, "Why? What do you mean?" He says, "Well, we haven't hardly been able to get a spirit to show up for 3 weeks." Now, what we've learned in the last 12, 13, 14 years with this kind of praying, and we have like 13, 14 pages that we will go through of information. On one of my pages, I might have over 100 names of satanic ritual abuse victims, along with coven leaders and military, all kinds of stuff. So the prayers are along the way as we continue to pray that God will give us more information, more confirmation, new victims come forward, we find a site, someone comes in and tells us, we engage that, and we begin to see that especially when we do it as a team on a weekly basis, it's like after we do that prayer thing on Monday night, before the end of the week, we may end up with another case, more information, a phone call in, a ritual site that's been, told to us, confiscated material that was brought back from a coven, given to us, and it is just literally, dislodged, and it really kind of freaks them out because nobody's really gone after them. And the issue is this, because they have been operating in an uncontested secrecy. And as long as they can operate in secrecy, they can do a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Once that's hit and targeted, and God gives more insight and more insight and more information, then it's like instead of bombing the countryside, now you're literally bombing the military factory.
What kind of general prayer tips would you suggest for those listening? What kind of how do you pray? What's your system?
Sure. Well, in my personal life, I use the Lord's Prayer as a format. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I worship first. I spend time to worship, interact with the Lord, and just fellowship with the Lord, and that's where it's just relationship and worship. And from there, I move into intercession, praying for His kingdom, to be, come about, His will to be done. And so it's really praying the advancement. I don't decide what His will is, but we do implement the will of God, and we do advance the kingdom that way. So we pray intercession-wise, praying for lost souls, praying for the church, praying for leaders, praying for the advancement of things, praying for revivals, praying for Christian events, things like that. We will go to praying for daily, necessities, daily bread, our own issues. We'll pray to make sure that if we have any sin issues, Lord, convict us and show us and repent of anything, or we'll pray, lead us not into temptation. I'll get like a heads up about what's coming. But then when I come to the part where it says, deliver us from the evil one, again, I don't quote the verses. I just simply use it as a pattern. Then I come to warfare. I pray sometimes, what's the enemy doing? Just like Jesus knew that Satan had come into the room, the disciples were all eating food, and all of a sudden Jesus looked at them and said, Simon, Simon, and in the Greek it's plural. He said, Satan has asked to sift all of you guys as wheat. But I prayed for all of you guys that your faith would fail. So Jesus knew who entered the room. Jesus knew who asked to destroy them. And they didn't have a clue. So spending time in prayer, listening to the Spirit of God, which takes time to yield to His presence, to learn, to listen to the voice of God, to pray, because the work of the Spirit is inseparable from the work of the Word of God. It's going to be a work that works together. So then that's pretty much general for me. But when I come to the warfare side, that's when I may, open the Shattered Prayer Notebook and or have specific individuals that I'm dealing with during this week. And I'll begin to go over things that might be even 5-6 years old, but now something new has come up. And so we're constantly targeting the areas. And we have a page, for example, the top of the page says pray for exposure. Then we have other stuff typed on it, and then there's certain scriptures. And then we already have information down. And we keep adding to that as God gives us things. And so that's just that general sense of exposure in the area, then specifically concerning covens and victims and people and individuals. And in that we target secret societies that we're engaged with, which leads us sometimes to go and investigate and do research and to kind of do. We don't usually say this publicly, but we kind of counter infiltration. The spies of Israel that went into the land and came back, or went into Jericho. But we do it for the sake of how we're going to pray. We do it redemptively. Who needs to be led to Christ? But we also do it in the sense of what needs to be stopped. If there's a ritual going on or someone to be hurt, what needs to stop. And then then there's, like I say, a number of other pages involved. One page that says defeat and destruction of demonic powers. We'll be praying through, asking the Lord for any discernment of any rituals and powers and things and stuff that's been done against us or anybody else or anything in the area. And if we get discernment on it, then we respond back in prayer. When we got discernment on a coven in the Kent area, we began to pray and go up there and spend hours in the middle of the night tracking down rituals, times and dates. And it took quite a while, but we eventually, in a total miraculous providential way, walked into a room where there was a person there that was a victim of satanic ritual abuse. Their arms were all cut up. And we immediately went into talking to personalities with them, and the demonic stuff began to surface. So there's a Nazi-oriented, long-term coven's been there 60 years. Now we've come up with 2 other victims in that area. Now we have a friend that I ate dinner with last week. He works for the CIA, that understands our work. He's up there in Ravenna. He's at a hospital, meets a girl named Carrie. Bottom line is, the bottom story is, he starts talking to her about everything else, calls me, says, Russ, we've got one for you. I've got one for you. That she's married to a satanic high priest, and all this information he's given me on Friday. I'm going to connect you with her. So he goes back to the hospital to get her phone number and to give her our phone number. And as he goes into the hospital, she had walked out that morning and quit after being there 14 years. So now the process is finding her. So it's just ongoing. There are just so many different cases, so many activities around us. It does take, you got to spend time in prayer. You got to spend time. The normal praying in biblical times, I think, is both offensively in a sense of extending the kingdom, but also praying against things. Nothing wrong with praying and using the weapon of prayer in the biblical sense against evil. And that's where we've seen, by the authority of Christ and by his work, that's why we've seen so much activity. We believe we've been able to peer through, break through the satanic secrecy, which then unveils what's going on. And without that, it just continues, but cloaked.
That's a good word. I know that's going to do a lot of good out there and set people on the right track for that. Something that we've been looking to a lot on this show is the Nephilim connection and how it relates to the New World Order and all this that we're talking about. What is your view on it? What's going on with that?
Well, I think, again, here's where we shouldn't take just a little view of Scripture. All of Scripture is there for a purpose. And even in Genesis 6, where it says the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and then again later, the Zamzumis, Anakites, others, there's bloodlines from those Nephilim. When the Watchers came down, had sex with the women, basically raped them, and the children that were born, the genetics were changed. There's no question about that. Now, the issue, we can talk about, back then, all that kind of stuff. My personal belief is that it's Nephilim that raised up the ziggurats and the pyramids and all that kind of stuff to involve greater dimensions, gateways, and so forth, because they've grid mapped the earth. Our issue today is, Jesus said in the end times, it'll be just like the days of Noah, that level of evil. So big issue now is, are there Nephilim now? And at the very least, I can say there's an attempt for them, both in the Aleister Crowley left-hand path stuff, looking for a moon child. In the military side of things, there's no question. I sat one time, astounded, in a car, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, with an officer who recruited me to be the police chaplain and got me into teaching in the academy on call crime, who turned out to be a high complex military multiple. When I got down to talking to a personality named Piet, that was at a base in Holland, they described the genetic, the way it works. They described and even, wrote out a little bit how they believe, here's what they believe, whether we do or not, they believe that if I got every demon out of them, they would fall over like a lump of clay. Because the ritual that is done in a transgenerational way is done in the husband and the wife. Both are in bloodline. When we say bloodline, we're talking about traces of Nephilim blood that already has in it kinetic abilities, like psychokinesis and all the rest of the stuff. It's already the properties. It's not the same as possession. This is beyond possession. It's in the properties of the blood. That's why the demons love the blood issues, because there's an attachment. Here's Christians need to, theologically understand, where does your spirit attach to your physical body? Life is in the blood. It may be that our human spirit is literally where spirit crosses into the physical realm or touches or connects is within the system of blood. That's another story, though. I'm saying on their side, that's how they look at it. That's why they will, when they take blood from one of their kinds of victims, one that they feel is already powered out, that's why they want to drink the blood or sell the blood to another coven, because there's powers and properties in that blood. They've been attempting the recreation of Nephilim for a long time, Chris. I believe that the demonized ideology of the Nazis, the scientists, I believe that's what they were learning. I believe that's what was happening in the Hall of the Dead and the discussions in the science, a demonized science, because the spirits were trying to train open minds, open heads, demonized minds and heads on, a new process of entry. Though the new watchers can't come down and have direct level sex stuff, there's no question we've dealt with case after case after case of individuals, both men and women, who've had sex with demons. A history professor here at the university, he's sitting down, Chris, talking to me about this incredible encounter sexually, the best sex he ever had, on and on and on. I thought I had to just finally stop him. Now he's gone through major deliverance. I mean major deliverance to break all this, and it seems that he's doing pretty good. But I believe that they've been attempting this for a long time, and here's the reason why. Well, not only because of the information of Luciferians and stuff, and I think that we can clearly see there's biblical traces of this, but I believe the Antichrist will be probably Nephilim-oriented. He will be, and if we don't understand, I mean, here's where, I hear sometimes, and I love theology, and I've taught theology for 20 years, but a lot of theologians don't understand the depths of the spiritual side of even biblical revelation. Think in terms of the incarnation of Jesus. The Spirit of the living God effected the immediate conception inside the physical womb of Mary. So you have spirit to human communication, spirit to human conception. So there's no question from spirit to human conception can occur. Obviously, in the God-man Christ, where his very genetics and nature is both fully God, fully man. In the Greek word, genesis, the only one of a kind. Now, in the Nephilim issues, it's the same type of thing. When the Watchers came down and had sex with the women, they created a incarnation, but not of infinite God, immeasurable, God with human flesh, to where you have God-man. That you have finite, fallen, corrupted, angelic presence commingling with human. And so the genetics of they're not really human. They're not fully demonic. You have a new species. Obviously the flood was not just because of humanity, but because of the corruption of the bloodlines and how far things went. It was really a way of saving humanity to fulfill the prophecy given in Genesis 3:15 of the coming Messiah, whose genealogy written out in Matthew and Luke and so forth takes us from him back to Adam, where none of his genealogy is connected to any kind of tainted, occultic, demonized Nephilim, bloodlines. He comes from a pure bloodline, and there's a reason for that. I believe the military has been doing it for a long time, and I believe the military cult multiples that we've been dealing with, the ones that have really been there from the 50s, that have eventually now in their 50s have become the trainers and the ones that do the stuff. And they keep learning. The science keeps getting, in their view, better. For example, they tell me how they've been working for years upon years to develop the power of resurrection. That's pretty interesting to me, since the Antichrist will have a mortal wound, die, and be resurrected in counterfeit to Christ. The Antichrist is not just going to be a person that all of a sudden at 30 years old finds himself possessed. They are a bloodline created, genetically created, counterfeit of the real incarnation. It's an incarnation of satanic presence, not just a possession.
How do you feel that the genetic manipulation of whatever it is at that level, do you feel that has something to do with the UFO sightings, alien abduction, that kind of thing? I've even heard that these gray type entities are even at rituals. Have you heard that before? And what do you think of the business?
Sure. Well, Guy Malone, the guys down from Roswell, New Mexico, we were down there a couple years back. They really got some really great insight, and Joe Jordan and all those guys. I really believe, because, in interacting with, abductees or whatever else, the same principles are there about blood, about it being taken forcefully, powers against them, genetic issues, whatever, and breeders and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of similarities, and I think the Guy Malone and his page down there, I think it's called the Ancient Days Conference or whatever,
yeah.
Alien Resistance or whatever. They have a page that shows the similarities between satanic ritual abuse and abductees and what they talk about. Now, the person, again, we had here that was in direct fellowship and connection with Bud Hopkins and brought me in a yellow packet part of Bud Hopkins' new book and pictures of Bud. By the way, he's very into pornographic literature stuff and writing, which a lot of people don't know. But I think that those in the alien realm, they're dealing with a different class of demonic, presence. There's ground level demonic stuff. There are celestial, terrestrial. There are principalities in the air. The demonic realm comes at us from different directions, even into the stars. So it's very possible. I can't give any biblical facts on this that Nephilim prior to the flood did survive, or either way they were here afterwards. That they did create incredible technologies, and I think that's what's occurring. I believe that's what's been occurring in science for some 100 years. That was heightened. Whenever there's a heightened occultic activity, you're going to find a heightened science. But science that becomes unethical, immoral, like the Nazi doctors.
It always seems. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just going to say that it just seems like it always seems the same kind of gnosis stuff of the Tower of Babel. Like, here's some neat little stuff that you guys don't know about, in exchange for who knows what, just see it as the Satan knowing a whole lot about the mechanics of the universe and is able to, throw us a technological, if you want to use that word, bone, of understanding of how to use something or harness some energy or something. And then, in exchange for worship, basically, or sacrifice.
Well, maybe the Collins brothers could even go into tracing it again in the area of sciences. I really kind of wonder how many scientists, woke up in the middle of the night with a new idea in their head and then begin to work on it. But where did the idea come from? See, in demonic interaction we've dealt with for years, we see how it works. Thoughts, involuntary thoughts and feelings can be pumped into a head that already has a predisposition in the sense of that they're closed off towards God, but they are open to their ethical side has to have been broken down. That's why there's a whole debate over the ethical stuff, over the cloning and genetics and all that kind of stuff. There's a whole issue there. Ethics has everything to do with the next stage of elitist spiritual evolution, or at least the promise of it. So when you read 2 Thessalonians 2, when it talks about the coming of the Antichrist or the lawless one, he comes in accordance with the work of Satan, counterfeit signs, wonders, and miracles, and here's what everybody misses, and in evil. That word comes from the idea of moral evil. So when the moral structure can be changed, that's a receptacle for the spiritual instruction. And so I believe that there can be guidance, bits and pieces, and progressively, even in non-possessed people, scientists, whoever. They can get the ideas, they can get the stuff, but again, it's kind of like the way secret, the agencies do it. It's information is compartmentalized, eyes only. Satan only gives out so much here, so much there, so much there. He knows the big picture. He has all the pieces of the puzzle, and he knows how he's bringing it all together because he's working in that same way, an agenda. But the core of that agenda involves, again, the allegiance, because we find and demons don't, if a person dies, the demons don't live in dead carcasses. When a ritual's done, any demons that was in or on that person, they're gone. They're either transferred into another person through blood drinking, whatever else, or they've been released in some kind of, curse or a specific, command of attack somewhere. But they don't house themselves in dead human carcasses. There's nothing there. They need the human soul. They need the human structure, the living person, to bring things through. So it's not always that he wants to kill everybody. Primarily the resistors, because he still has an agenda. And the New Agers have no idea that the commitment to elitist spiritual evolution and the principles of a belief that they're evolving to a new consciousness. I don't know how they can bypass Alice Bailey telling them that the Ascended Masters told her that Christians, real Christians, or whatever, there's going to have to be a cleansing. If they don't comply, the spiritual side is telling them they can't bring humanity to that new level of consciousness, that new burst. So either we comply or cleansing. Well, obviously cleansing for Alice Bailey in the communication that Ascended Master meant annihilation. So it's predicted in the book of Revelation, or demonstrated at least, that there will be at one point an attempt to annihilate the body of Christ worldwide, the largest martyrdom in world history.
Speaking with Russ Dizdar of ShatterTheDarkness.net, now you've been the focus of a lot of different types of attacks in a way, curses, hexes, even physical attempts on your life. How do you avoid it, and how do you avoid being affected by them?
Well, every believer will have, we talk about 4 levels of spiritual warfare primarily. There's others, including piggybacking occult level warfare, but primarily every believer, will have sometimes oppression come against them. That's what Ephesians 6 is all about. Or the day of attack, like Ephesians 6 deals with the day of evil, put on the armor of God, so forth. So every Christian will have times of oppression and sometimes times of direct attack. That's normal to me for anybody. That's why we should understand authority in spiritual warfare and the power of the Word of God. Now, on the other side, a Christian can open up to attachment, Ephesians 4, or real possession. The Greek word actually is diamozoid, which means basically a certain level of control. So those kind of things are out there. What we've learned now, though, that we usually talk about, we open the door, like Ephesians 4 talks about, be angry, don't sin, don't let the sun go down your anger, and give the devil a foothold, a toe pawn, a legal right to your life. So as long as we don't do that as believer, then we eliminate, we're literally, the doors are slammed, and God's got the right, and the enemy doesn't have a right. Here, the other side of that issue is when occultists, have progressed in their development of spiritually sending out and attacking. That's why there are death rituals, sickness rituals, plundering rituals. It's all about, conjuring spirits and powers to attack. So they open a gateway. They open a doorway. In my yard, there's no ferocious dogs, whatever else, but if I have a neighbor that has trained his dogs and I'm out sometime and then he gives the command to attack, that dog can come across into my yard and bring me some trouble. So they can bring trouble. And there's a level of, again, growing in the Lord. That's why I think that prayer formula I talked about, or not formula, but pattern about worship, intercession, daily needs, sin issues, so forth, and then deliver us from the evil one. That's where I am praying, Lord, is there anything, coming? That's where it's like a heads up. Like Jesus knew what the others didn't know, let alone the charismatic gift of discernment given to some believers who may, what I say in that, they just simply have larger antennas than the rest of us Christians. All Christians have the Holy Spirit and have a level of discernment. But and in prayer, you can gain a lot more insight to what the enemy's doing if you're willing to listen. Jesus came to the one church in the 7 churches of Revelation and told them, gave them the heads up. Satan's coming. It's put some of you in prison 10 days, but be faithful. He just told them what to do. Be faithful to the point of death. He didn't stop. He just told them what was coming. So there's been times where in prayer I got a sense, or the Spirit of the Lord, showed this is going to be happening, or even before I walked into a room to do a deliverance on a high level multiple, you get a sense. So I've learned a prayer map prior to going in that room, and learned that just that prayer mapping in the sense of seeking the Lord for discernment issues. Is there anything coming, including the work of astral projectors and remote viewers and other stuff. That's a whole nother level where the human spirit is empowered by the demonic and drawn out to bring effect also. So it's just a matter of learning what level of incredible weaponry we have when it comes to the demonic side. We pray for the good, blessing, salvation, healing, and deliverance of people. But when it comes to the demonic side, we only pray one thing: a defeat, destruction, stopping, canceling, that kind of stuff. Sometimes the demons can inspire a person to do harm. Satan entered into Judas and he immediately went out and betrayed Jesus. A demonized multiple only had personalities. And this was occurred to us a couple of times walking into a room where I'm writing notes, and across from me is a woman, and a military sergeant brought her in. And as I look down to write a few notes as I'm talking to her, next thing I know is right past my head, barely hitting my head, but my hair, and slam into the desk. I look up, and she's crazed. Her eyes are glazed over, and there's a military bayonet stuck in my desk. They pulled it out. I mean, they were very, when the programming and demonization kicking together, again, as I'll say, they're almost unstoppable. On the one hand, I've seen where we've had to rebuke the demonic side that kind of, say, weakened them or brought them down to their knees. But then there's the physical human side. Spiritual authority does not affect the human will in the sense of you can't command a human will to stop. You can't command a human mind to stop. Spiritual authority that Jesus gives us does not affect the human will or the human mind. It only affects demonic presence. So attacks can come. People, covens can be, conjure and send stuff to your house. Sometimes they leave you notes. Sometimes they've sent it in the mail. I was given a picture of a hooded people with a bleeding baby, and it on the bottom it says, "This blood's for you," and it came from the Brotherhood out of Pennsylvania. And the Satanists explained they did a high level ritual killing a baby on your behalf for us. Well, I don't know if they did or not, but I did take it in prayer, and I know they would have done it, to do things against me. But they're doing that against a lot of people. Even years ago in the 90s, when Larry Lee wrote a book called Can You Pray With Me 1 Hour, I think, something like that, or Weapons of Our Warfare. It was one of those books. At the very beginning, he talks about being on an airplane, seeing a guy that he thinks is praying a couple of times, and he eventually says, "Hey, I see you praying. Can I ask you what you're praying about or whatever?" And the guy goes, "Oh, you have no idea. I can't really go into that." And he goes, "I know. I really want to know what you're doing, and looks like you were praying." Well, he goes, I was a form of prayer. Yeah, I was praying. He says, basically, he explained he was a Satanist. He was being given an assignment to do specific warfare against specific pastors in a specific part of the region. And our difficulty is, Chris, that we don't know all the time what they're doing all the time. The good news is if we're walking with the Lord and close to the Lord, God's going to give a heads up. Ultimately, there's going to be protection. And the weaponry we have, if we use it, is absolutely decimating to that side.
Right. Well, to that end, I got three basic questions sort of about that. What kind of verses or phrases or thoughts give you faith and courage when you're facing evil? Is there anything that typically runs through your head or encourages you?
Well, I think Jesus, more than anything else, is just the source. I guess, when I think in terms of the attributes of God, the finite, which Satan is still finite, the demons are finite, in comparison to the infinite. And when you think in terms of God's attribute as infinite, even if he's housed in human flesh, that didn't dissolve the attribute of infinity. God is infinite. God is so vast, so big, that one of the attributes of God is incomprehensibility. We can't comprehend everything because God is so vast. You'd have to be God to know him backward and forward, and there's no backward and forward to know. I guess to me, it's just that Jesus Christ is the victor. But it's not all about just that he came to clean up the mess and deal with the evil. The motivation, Chris, is that God so loved the world. He loves us so much. He's a relational being. It's demonstrated in Jesus, his care for humanity. He had no problem dealing with the demonic. And of course, so when I look at Jesus and I see the demonic realm shudder and shake in total fear, when I see Jesus not sweat worrying about, Satan getting him or demons getting him, when I see him giving us authority, and of course we see the end game. The sad point is that the reason Satan gets so much ground in anybody's particular life, let alone nation states and eventually the global world, is because the masses open up and give. It just shows us that humanity gave him the room.
Right.
So the things that encourage me again is just the victory of Jesus, what he has done, the power of the Word of God still, and even when I fought my best and done all that I know to do, because we're in the middle of a number of cases, a number of things going on right now, and there's times you think you have authority, and we've now dealt with hundreds of demons and demon deliverances and all that kind of stuff. Ultimately, when you go back to the Psalm 37, Psalm 18 specifically, Psalm 70 and Psalm 71, it deals with ultimately that God arises and attacks the enemy. That in behalf of the fought against believer, in behalf of the wounded believer, in behalf of a believer that's just at times even exhausted, God doesn't leave it up just to us alone to battle and to use authority to do things. It demonstrates again and again that he rises up and literally attacks them. So part of the spiritual warfare praying is sometimes saying, God, Lord, I'm just, come and attack what's going on, because there's so much of it sometimes. And I see the same operation in the book of Romans, chapter 16, verse 20, and dealing with the empire of Rome, which was, of course, the emperor worship, and obviously Satan had his throne there. And there was where there is that kind of alternative spirituality, you also see a level of massive blood persecution against Christians. So much so that Nero had a coin struck and said the Christian religion, he literally thought he eliminated or annihilated Christendom. But God gave a word in the book of Romans in that verse that says that he would soon crush Satan under their feet. And of course, Rome, as a mighty world empire, fell on behalf of God protecting the body of Christ, the indestructible body of Christ. That's amazing to me. He wins at every turn. Jesus is indestructible, the church is indestructible, and Israel is indestructible because of the divine origins and purposes of both.
Mm-hmm. Now, but Jesus warned us, in effect, that if we, lived as he did and did the things he did, that the world would do what they did to him, sort of. But also, we have this various encouragements about our protection from God. And how do you reconcile the two ideas, I suppose?
True, because I've seen some of my own staff in the past, fall under spiritual attack or give up. I've seen Christians give up, and I've seen some harmed. And though, in cases where we have not been harmed on a physical level, I think we've been harmed on other levels in our life as a family and so forth. We're still in a fallen world. Christians still will be persecuted at times where the enemy has gotten a large political stronghold. There can be, though there will never be an annihilation of the Christendom and of all of Christianity, and though the war will be won overall, battles from time to time will be lost. And even in our lives as believers, at times we might feel that we've lost here or there, but keep getting up and keep doing it. And ultimately, there should be a succession and progression of victories, no matter how deep the battle. I've had many people say, "I don't want to do as much as you guys have done." Listen, we're no heroes, Chris. I don't have anything anybody doesn't have. The only difference would be my motivation is to see people get saved and get to reach anybody anywhere. Evil inspires me in this sense to fight against it because I see its destruction. To learn the weaponry of God, to go against it, to see people set free, delivered, and helped, because that was the ministry of Jesus, to set captives free, the prisoners released, and so forth. So It just comes down again to the relationship to this incredible King of Heaven that no matter what occurs, you can't give up. And if there are Christians that fall and stumble, or when persecution does come, or Christian brothers and sisters in Sudan, thousands have been slaughtered. Because the floodgates, again, the laws of engagement there have given room to the enemy politically and through that kind of stuff. So I'm sure here in the United States, if we didn't have some of the law and order that we have, that there would be more of a persecution towards believers.
I think that faith is important as far as I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's just such a hard thing to say. What I love was when you talk about God demonstrating His power when the faithful confront evil. I heard a podcast just yesterday where you were talking about David, fighting Goliath and that kind of thing. If you want to kind of expand on that, I think it demonstrates, that God Almighty is with you, and if He's with you, who can stand against you?
Well, that's what I love, because the truth is, it reminded me of John Knox, the wicked Queen of Scotland. It said, fear the prayers of John Knox more than an invading army. Well, this is true, I think, in the sense that here you have Goliath that may have come from Nephilim blood. Obviously, he was some kind of giant. And the Philistines obviously being highly demonized. You got to realize that all those little nations around Israel, they were into blood, drinking, killing, sacrificing their sons and daughters, cannibalistic. They were not. There was no secular states. There were no democratic, atheistic, agnostic states. They were all in some form of God goddess worship that caused them to have such a hatred for these people that had Yahweh as their God because of the spiritual antagonism. So when Israel when Goliath comes, look what he's doing. He's constantly blaspheming and he's screaming at Israel about the God of Israel. He's literally trying to provoke them by slamming their God. And these great experienced warriors, where were they? They were up in the hills and they were hiding. They were behind the rocks where Goliath couldn't get to them. Notice what occurs. Nothing happens in the rocks other than they got to stay there. They got to stay humiliated. They got to stay defeated, and no activity of God happens up in the rocks. But when David finally is moved out of his passion for God to go down there, that's where the sovereign aiming and power and demonstration that through a little boy that would go down there and fight in the name of the Lord God of Israel, the God of heaven, and unleash. In the Old Testament, we got to remember that the powers that would come on the nation states, when Israel was fighting one of the most pagan and cultic worshiping nations ever, Moses, when he had his arms up in prayer, they were winning. When his arms went down and the intercession began to stop, the other side would win, because the other side would sacrifice, call on their gods, kill their own kids, spill blood to gain powers, so that the spiritual powers would house or tent over the physical powers, and the determining factor would be whose spiritual powers, or God, would be given the room to operate in the greatest way. Obviously, with David taking the stance that he did, and through his faith he went out there, obviously God works by means. He never does a miracle without a redeemed being, a person involved. He doesn't do any answering to prayer unless there's a prayer, unless there's someone to do it. So I see God shows up on the field, destroys Goliath in this incredible turnaround, demonstrating that the power of God is not a matter of size of a human being, but by the sheer openness. So he went out there in faith. God loves faith, and he went and literally he poured through that passion and that faith in a warfare sense. And of course, Goliath was defeated. Israel was, all excited. Although we don't see them repenting very much over that. So the church should never be afraid. Out on the field is where I have seen the power of God. Out of the field in front of these people, seeing some get saved, some of them that hate us, some of them just where they're going to kill us, destroy us in the end, all these kind of things. We've heard this so many times, and obviously we're all going to die sometime. We're all going to go out. I don't want to go out like a chicken. I don't want to go out like the guys in the rocks. And that's not even my focus. My issue is just, is there one more person that can get saved? Is there one more person get delivered? If Antichrist is already existing out there somewhere, and soon he's going to come to power, which I think could occur in the next, within the next 5 to 10 years, truthfully, then what are we going to do? I really do believe much of the body of Christ will coming to those times, going to be hiding behind the rock. And it's sad because no power, no sense of the hand of God is demonstrated when we shut the doors and limit the Holy One of Israel.
Right. Let me just get a few more questions for you, Russ. Let's go with this one. Do you see any connection? Well, let's go with this. What about astral projection? We've just seen a recent news story where I've read through it. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, but it looks like that they have been able to reproduce it in a lab, so to speak. I've had reservations that this was something that was, I don't know, with sleep paralysis. You notice them trying, and you said you've actually astral project when you were a Buddhist, and I just want to know what's your view on it in the whole scheme of things.
Well, I think
is it a go ahead.
I think that it's a capacity that we have the ability, but we can't do it without some kind of presence helping us. Ezekiel went up and out, Paul went up out of his body, and John the Patmos went out of his body, but all by the Spirit of God in every case. And they were all shown and directed by God, all that he was going to reveal, and it corresponded with the scriptures and the purposes of God. Now, on the other side of the fence, like I was taught by Master Ong about how to leave the body, what it would feel like, how to talk to the ascended masters, and if they ever asked me to let them come in my body and speak through me, a channel, which never, I never got to that point. I got saved right in the middle of all that. But when I look at a light level where there's people practicing and trying it out, or we read the light level information concerning Ed Dames and Buchanan and Monroe and all the rest, all the different guys that came from the Stargate Project and remote viewing. Remote viewings, Ingo Swann understood that as the father of it, because it all involved a projecting outward and abilities that go beyond the normal human. And I guess part of it is that, again, in the lab, there's a belief of a Luciferian. The Luciferian doctrine is enhancing the human abilities to godlike abilities. It's a promise towards it that never really comes about, because a finite being can't give you what the infinite can. So, yes, there's no question. I know exactly what it feels like to literally lift up out of my body. Your spirit is literally projecting up out, still attached. It's incredible. It's weird. I look at it as we're entering into the second heavens. The third, of course, where Paul was raised up, saw things he couldn't even speak, didn't have the vocabulary. I believe the ether of the remote viewers and the astral plane of the astral projectors, and for example, my Buddhist Taoist teacher he called it the Great Universal. I believe that's the second heavens. I believe that's where all the demons and angels, that's where all the warfare is going on in that realm that eventually and at times manifests into this realm. I believe that it either has to be the Spirit of God that lifts you up and out for his purpose, or another energy form. And I don't want to reduce the Spirit of God to an energy form, but the Spirit of God is the power. He is the power of God. He hovered over creation. Demons can make a person feel their energy, feel their presence, tingling, heightening them or whatever, without them ever knowing that it's a real entity. So in many cases, like for example, we did a deliverance with a remote viewer, that believe, I discussed how did you finally get into it. It was all about curiosity. Somehow synchronistically they got a hold of some books, so there's a satanic synchronicity that goes on to align them because of their openness, the will. And then they finally, get to the point they feel, and there's that first time when they finally break out of the body, and begin to do things depending on what they've read and learned, so forth. And this person got to do this very, strong art. They learned to weaponize it, of course, too. into the area of psychic assassination and triangulating 3 people at a time. They discussed trying to break the barrier out there in the dark realm, or the ether as they called it. There's a barrier that none of them could get through. They showed me all kinds of militaristic, again, application to the leaving out and going out, let alone getting information from the enemy, that kind of stuff. They learned also how to attack and hit the mind, to learn how can they twist a mind, how can they create a heart attack and you weaponize it, in other words. Here's what occurred. As we're going through this, I'm beginning to discern this is not just energy. There's an energy form. And so as we're going through this, I said, "You mind if I have a prayer?" And it's like, okay. So I prayed that whatever presence or power was there would be contained, could not go anywhere, deceive anybody. And eventually we commanded it to come to attention. And it spoke its name, Argon. And this person was pretty fascinated because inwardly they could see that it looked translucent and beautiful. We commanded it to look as it really does, as it really is. The person was horrified when they saw it, because it was gnarly, I guess, and ugly and ferocious looking and, grotesque. Argon was angry because we contained it and it couldn't get away. We engaged this incredible battle at one point where this person was able to get out of their body. They could see Argon. They could see the ether. Chris, we just simply, all I could tell you is what occurred. We prayed that their eyes would be open to see what it really was, because they knew there were many different kinds of presences out there in the ether. And so when we commanded for their eyes to be open and that no deception would keep them from seeing what's really there, the person was horrified to see what they described as just hundreds of thousands of demonic creatures. We, eventually, because at first they didn't want to give up Argon because that was their power. They knew they would lose their ability. But when I commanded that Argon tell this person, we said, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, Argon, tell this person what it is you're going to do with them and what is your real goal. You're under the authority of Jesus. You tell them what you're going to do. And this being screamed out to take them to blankety blank hell. Of course, they cussed. They have no problem with cussing. They have no problem. I mean, I don't, demons aren't Cheech and Chong, but they can sure cuss like them. So we commanded it, they were finally, the person was like, okay, go ahead, get it out. So we commanded it release and get out and so forth, and everything that it gave the person. Well, the person couldn't do it any longer. I think that's true of anybody we dealt with it, on the witchcraft side, heavy witchcraft side, or a satanic side, that we're able to do that.
So, in your experience, does leaving the body open one up for demonic possession, or was it not really the same mechanics, or did they already open themselves to demonic possession by having the ability to do it?
Well, there'll be some that'll get mad at me over this, but it's okay. Anybody demonstrating the ability to get out of the body already has some level of attachment, some level of empowerment. You cannot get out of the body without it. And, again, God can do that. I mean, obviously, biblically, it's clear that to leave the body is possible, because in 3 biblical cases it occurred, Ezekiel, Paul, and John, but in each case by the Spirit of God. And there was an interaction. So it was really protected. Remote viewers nowadays, and one that I felt burdened for 2 years after reading this book, again, a satanic chosen one out of the military gave me his phone number. And I called him, and I got a hold of his daughter first. And instantly the Lord gave me a word about his daughter. And then she gave me his number. And I finally called him, and it took a while because he didn't want to trust me at first. But we had interactions, and I still pray for him to this very day. Look at all the remote viewers and also astral projectors out there. Or if you read any of the New Agers, I mean, high-level people that talk about going on. I was just reading an old book by Monroe here just lately. It's incredible, the place they say they go, the people they visit, the people they see, all these different things that they can say and do. But you're going to notice something, Chris. Not one of them would confess Jesus, the real Jesus Christ, as their Savior, Lord, King, anything. At the very least, they might be, and a lot of them do have Mormon background, where the Spirit of God and the real Christ play no part in their spiritual experience.
Right.
None of them. I have not found one. I cannot find one true born again remote viewer or astral projector. It just doesn't. It's not compatible.
Read all the pamphlets and watch the tapes. Read all the pamphlets and watch the tapes. Read all the pamphlets and watch the tapes. Get all confused with you. Mix up the dates. I give you the free 10. You come for the weekend and you stay for the week. You say that you hate it, but that's how you made it, just to keep it OP. We're moving high on lemon silks. We're all sucked in by politics. All the people that save you, the kids never leave 'cause you make them at home. You try to appease them and they show you stick, but still you pick up the phone. You hate that you can take it as long as they don't shove you out in the cold. It's not getting better, no, it's not getting better, man. It's just getting old. We do what programs we do. Hey, we do a ringtone. Oh, I never remember to carry my book when I get on the bus. You never forget when it's your time to pay up, and they are making our price. We're going high on lemon silks. We're all high on wiggling hips now. You break all your plans for the weekend. You can tell them the dates, but that don't mean nothing. Oh, things that you come for the weekend, then you stay for the year. Avoid all your plans, 'cause we're making our day jobs into a steady career. We're both high on lemon silks. We all come to sinking ships now. I'm bored on the cold side with expensive now. Celebrate, and then turn to stone. Read all the pamphlets, watch the tapes. Read all the pamphlets, watch the tapes. Read all the pamphlets, watch the tapes. You turn 25 and now you're out of escape. Go! Hey, the rock writer told me to tell you. When you're brave and you're brave, you still like that Christmas star. Read all the pamphlets and watch the tapes. Read all the pamphlets and watch the tapes. Read all the pamphlets and watch the tapes. Read all the pamphlets. Read all the pamphlets. Read all the pamphlets. We all get a little drunk and then rap like this. In a foreign fight, looking for signs of light. When you flashed upon the street, was in the atmosphere. Your silhouette appears, and Oh, I think I see what happened here.
Well, I can say what's up anyways. What is happening? All of a sudden, you got that Cricket Wireless. It's about, yeah, well, no, but yeah, communications has always been doing the audit. And why all of a sudden you're throwing like way back at the algorithm and shit like that. It's pretty interesting how that all works. Anyways, maybe I'll throw out a join link. I think I can only be here for just like a little bit, so could always be one of those things where, hey, jump up on panel and take over while I do what I do. Who's this Eric Eschner guy leaving comments that he's gonna try to sue? And I don't know people, but I do have to say that there are super fans out there that make accounts to make it look like me and then harass people. That way people try to, harass me back or to do their dirty work for them. Yeah, let me get this join link out. Join link. But yeah, I've got way too much going on to, I mean, some of the things that people come up with and still haven't, I don't know. I don't know if, I guess the Fed still haven't gotten involved. There's a join link there. Yeah, the GarbageWoman was pretty upset this morning. He had to tag me out like 5 to 8 times, something like that. Is that lols? Is that the real lols? The real lols. That is the lols. Yeah, try to come in here. You're just too that easy to spot. Why do you gotta come up into my chat? I thought I was just not even worth talking about. Their lols right there. And I think banned in your channel. But yeah, you can come here. And I don't know, you're trying to, if you were a superhero to anyone, you would have that first stream backed up where I came on your channel with Johnny's List, and it kind of gave you the riot act there. But what happened? Why don't you have it backed up, or can't re-release that? That's horrible. Well, maybe just keep me banned. All right, I'll come in. I'll come in, and you'll have me banned in no time. I'll come in. And Adam Camacho is an American hero. Banned, just like anywhere else. Oh, you got a copy for me. The other day it was banned and she doesn't have it. Now she's got a copy. Yeah, that's not good. That's just not good. Why do I gotta catch most of these really bad LARPers? You're a really bad LARPer, even on TV, just like freaking Glazin Dean. She's all on TV, right? But what happened to your falling out? I think it's a play fight. Panel up and prove me wrong. I don't think so. I don't believe you. What are you even doing here? It's just so horrible on that channel. Well, it is about him. You just have to be able to see past the surface their lulls. You got to be able to see below the surface on some things going on. Yeah. We got a little bit more than just good old time rock and roll going on over here. I'm surprised that we're 45 minutes in and we didn't have any communications interruptions till about 45 minutes in. Isn't that amazing? Then we do. I was just gonna singing it. Yeah, Rue, they gotta shut down the people that can actually write the lyrics so AI can take over. And if you didn't know, I did have a couple of I think decent rap tracks that I wrote, and of course you didn't hear them. It's okay. It's all right. Oh, it's supposed to just be nasty, gnarly. Yeah, the AI shit's just nasty, gnarly, and it can tell that its owner is nasty and gnarly, and you hear it in the AI. It's almost like, please help us type thing. There's no BS, and it's like a guy that's gonna treat a car like really bad, and then you go to fix it, and you're like, oh man, you can just tell you really treat your car like shit, don't you? Yeah, you can just tell. But I think it's the same thing with your AI software for songs, making songs and shit like that. It's just, it manifests in there. Just like when Treachy, remember when Treachy was doing the 432 hertz broadcast through his music? I mean, did any of that make sense to you guys? How that all, came about? They had to try it somehow. Now they're just doing an auto line in the AI music software. Monetize, hurry, monetize. Yeah, we know you guys want that sicko loot from Silicon Valley. The game ain't got no love for nobody, right? Yeah. Well, I've always been about, the homegrown backyard band that actually can go somewhere and see them go somewhere. How about that? And we did. It was fun. But anyways. That's working out at Portland, Oregon for you though. It was just back in the day, it was just such a blast, the music scene. And it was like wide open. It's like it wasn't you had to work in like one genre. Everything was wide open to basically help homegrown uh, bands and so forth, or that college band. There was one college band that was pretty good that did a demo record them a demo, and there you go somewhere with it. A lot of serial killers. I don't know. I'm not. I was just kind of like there for college and military, and then I was out. But then when I got out, I was able to do some pretty good work between Seattle and Portland. Then, and it was like almost like Antifa and BLM started up, and I was like, okay, I'm out of there. That gives you any timeline. But before all the, and that was even like way before you guys. Yeah, thank you. Oh, I will get called stolen valor around the streets for some reason. But the garbage woman right now, he's the one that's got some pred catching stolen valor all going around. We're garbage women against preds. No, it looks like you guys are protecting some shit. But all projecting. Yeah, it's not good. But hey, I mean, their fantasy Larkville hasn't, affected me when they've tried to. But that's all right. They're just gonna keep trying every day, every day. That's no BSing every day, every day. Haru every day, every day. The Lulz and Glazing show every day, every day. Well, it is entertaining for me while I'm out gardening, and then the people that actually know me and I show some of this stuff to, they're like, where do you find time to actually like complete all these accusations, I guess. Like, I don't know, it's pretty good fantasy though. They're at least they're having fun. I'm just in the middle of building the shed and trying to garden. And it's gonna take a while. It's funny because for me, getting things done, it takes a while where, a good crew to be done in like a day type thing. But you still get it done though. Even get out, gotta get some trout, make some trout tacos and some brain candy jerky. Especially before it gets too hot where, the water all of a sudden. There was already one Arizona lake that's completely shut down because all the fish died. I don't really want to say the name of where that was at because it's well, we've already brought in enough. Yeah, they think they can though. They think they can bring it, huh? All you little peckerwoods out there that think you're badass, you little warlock bastards, thinking you can send shit to people and then blame it on me. That's no BSing. But yeah, if anyone does want to panel up, I'm not going to be able to hang out for very long. Okay, so I almost feel like just playing one more song and getting out of here, even though it doesn't sound very good. I can go through so much. Like, wow, you guys have tried to pile on a whole like slew and book of charges that uh, I just can't do it all. There's no way. So you're gonna have to narrow down your scope a little bit, I think. What exactly has Mr. Cox done? It's just been so horrible. Oh, is it other people trying to make it look like me? Yeah, yeah. All I had to do is just get the wheels going a little bit. I've done that before. What's the topic? FCC. The topic is how big of a puss bag you are to even freaking panel up or not ban me from your panel. Yeah. Oh yeah. Should we talk about let's go with the trail of victims? FCC panel up. Let's talk about some surface music. Well, Rue, it's been actually hard work to gather this big of an army of. Are you jealous? No, are you actually jealous you don't have that big of a troll following? Yeah, I just saw how it works back in 2016 and saw my opportunity to go ahead and jump right in on it. FCC, don't puss out in my chat room. I would be banned from your platform, and you think I should just let you come up into my, my space? Think you're just gonna peddle whatever you need to? Oh yeah, oh yeah, Rue. It was every Saturday morning doing a Harry the Tub Troll uh, motorcycle gang leader. Well, that was just one of the characters, but at the end of every episode, I would politely ask the dirty FBI to, quit your job, turn in your dirty boss. You'd be better off working at Starbucks or something like that, okay, than the dirty side of the FBI. And that was back in 2016. They didn't like that. And in a different character, Zoltar, the Zoltar character was fun. There was Harry, the motorcycle leader, gang leader, and he'd talk to you without his lips moving. What looked like it to be a shower cap. You'd just have to be back in that era. And I just knew I'd make some fans that way, just about talking about a rancher that got shot in the back. And now these days, those agents have been given medals from that. I don't know. I think it's all really. Debate me on this. I think it's all boiling down to us going from, pasture beef to lab grown synthetic shit, and it's not good, right? Range grown beef out on the range, right? But it's a little different, right? No more. It's. I mean, cows out on the range is how good country songs have been written. And I saw the agenda back then in 2016. It was like, these MFers want to help bring in lab grown beef and get rid of the ranchers. Look, they just shot one in the back and got awards for it. Even Cash Patel's freaking happy, gives them awards. Let me know how it is. I'll stick with my fish and brain food. Read your labels real close. Going to going to the stores. Oh, man, we got somebody backstage. Here it goes. Oh, geez. Now I'm going to have to go over to my audio settings. I saw who it was. Oh, man. And the race is on. Check 1, 2.
Hey, what's up, man? It's been a while.
Yeah.
How have you been, bro?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it sounds like you're doing good on the audio too, man.
Hello, everybody in chat. It's been a long time. Hope everybody's having a good day. Been going through a lot in my personal life. From time to time, been going by different places. Hope everybody can hear me. If not, oh shit, I'd be screwed, glued, and tattooed.
Hey, you're fine. You're good.
All right,
good,
thank
man.
you. Yeah, man. I mean, it's been a while since I've been up on panel. I've been going through a lot of things in my personal life. So I apologize to all the people that haven't heard from me in a long time. But I do, from time to time, show up in places like I go to Clowns, and I haven't seen JD do a stream in a while. Hope he's doing well. And Shizzle. Hey, Shizzle, I'm sorry. It's been a while since I've been in one of your streams, brother. Hey. Hey, Shelly. How you doing? FCC, Rue. How y'all doing? Yeah, man. I mean, life's been hectic for me, Gomez, like big time. I mean, the fact that is we can't stop telling the truth. We can't stop winning. I mean, we keep taking those W's, man. I mean, they want to play the game and bullshit, so we just mock them and beat them at their own game that they're not good at it anymore, apparently, you know? But a lot of crazy shit's happening in these different communities. So
we're definitely the ones singing, but not like pigeons.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's funny that you have that fucking idiot, what's his name, Cole, have the nerve to sit there and say he's done victory laps when he can't even take a lap. That motherfucker can't even see his own feet. But then again, he thinks in his mind he's actually winning when he's not. I mean, he's one of the biggest losers on here. Another one was LARP Busters. I mean, that dude has been repeating himself for nearly a decade that we've all known him. I mean, I think you've known him a little bit longer than me. But it's been almost a decade since I've known about LARP Busters. I mean, that dude likes to pick fights and talk trash. But the dude has never paneled up with me, but he's paneled up with other people. And every person he's ever paneled up with, he's gotten swatted and smacked around. But now he got these idiots believing his lies, started shit with me at Southwest Jeff's chat. I mean, I like Southwest Jeff, and I did give him shit about it. But the thing was, LARP Busters picked a fight with me right when I got on Jeff's panel, and he recognized my voice. See, that right there, you should never pick a fight with somebody, because in the end...
That's called OBM. Hold on. That's called gatekeeping. And here's the thing. It's LARPy, and like the GarbageWoman, they got this stolen pred catcher valor that's going on. It's pretty serious. It's actually very disrespectful. Like if you read what I was writing about recently with Vic the Map, how almost disappointing it'd be, you know, in humanity and so forth, that you find out, geez, you're just surrounded by these fucking sickos all over the place, right? It just, how can you actually come to terms with, well, what do you do? Oh, you don't run away from it, first of all. Yeah, that's some stolen valor shit, man. As much stolen valor as they want to spread around and try to throw around, that's some pred catching stolen valor that they're trying to jump. Same with the NTF. You want to fling it around, maybe it's what you guys are doing. Just an FYI.
You know, though, man, with these idiots that, I mean, all they do is lie. Everything that comes out of their mouth, everything they say on the panels and the chats are just liars. LARP Busters, Cole, Warbot, all these fucking losers. And then you got LARP Busters. Yeah, he was gatekeeping, recruiting these, you know, these other idiots, Pat Con and Cruz. I mean, I knew them motherfuckers would be turncoats as well, because they're both a bunch of losers and liars too. But it's okay. You know, I like Jeff, but when he streams, I normally don't catch his streams anymore. I just drop a like for him, you know? I'm not gonna. I mean, it's not his fault that he has some people in chat and some on his panel that are retarded. Especially one of what I heard, he had a killer on his panel, from what I heard. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I like Jeff, but it's not his fault that some of the people that he rolls with are morons that lie. But yeah, I want to give a shout out to all the people in the chat, the good people, and Gomez, and I like to give a shout out to Jeff, to Nunya, to Savvy, just a lot of the good people that I know, but not the idiots that want to sit there and backstab on people to personally divide different places. Because I see you motherfuckers trying to divide shit. You don't think we do, but we see. My eyes are everywhere. Even if I'm not around, I have people tell me these things and show me the proof. So you guys can't run, and you certainly can't hide. Because eventually we're all going to find out more and more about your sinister sickness that you keep spreading in these communities. We're not stupid, but you guys are. And it's funny. So we're going to keep laughing it up. That's the way it is, man. That's the way it is. Yep. I mean, we see a lot of these people causing damage, but it's backfiring on them because they think they're actually dividing people when they're the ones getting busted out on the bullshit. They're the ones getting caught with their hands in the cookie jar. Haven't you learned that when you get caught doing something, you should take accountability for your actions and apologize to people that you've falsely accused people with? Come on. Use your brains, not your mouth,
Let's do a new song for Elisa Lake video. In honors of Larpy, in the key of Bob Marley. Stir it up, little Larpy, stir it up. Whoa, 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 whoa. How was that?
That was good. Larbusters, you're a little gay bitch. You think about balls and you like sucking dick. Larbusters, ass obliterated everywhere he goes. Little Larbusters, and his butt buddy cut coal. And Wart Slop joining in, they're out of control. Larbusters, you're a little bitch. Always thinking about balls and sucking dick. Yeah, man. That's for sure, man.
That's why they're screaming your name, OBM.
They're screaming our name because they're gay. Obsessed with every guy in different ways. They need to cool out and not talk trash. They're gonna get foot in their stupid ass. They are nothing but a bunch of losers. Taking drugs cause they like being abusers. They're not using their brains. Yeah, yeah, man. Alright, it's true. They're gay, so we don't fuck with you. The men like women here, the women like men here. So leave us alone and take your gay shit somewhere else. We don't need it around. Get the fuck out of here. Get knocked to the ground. We don't deal with your gay bullshit. So get the fuck out of here. And you better quit. Because we don't deal with your gay bullshit. No, no, man. No, 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 no. We don't need your gay bullshit around. Ha ha!
You gotta run away from that gay parade.
Oh, yeah, man. They can't handle the heat, dude, so they need to stay the fuck out of the kitchen. See, I mean, they don't understand, Gomez. Like, at this point of our lives being on YouTube, we don't take shit seriously like they do. It's like we like to mock and have fun and just be cool. And these assholes just want to cause problems. I mean, the whole division tactic. And I heard somebody sit there and tell me, oh, but this is a while back. I think it was Wart Slop. He said something about how Tommy, is not a good real catcher because he catches and release. But let me correct you on that. Any pred catcher who catches a sicko, turns them in. Our problem is that the government releases them. And you know what the government does when they release them? They have to be on a sex offender registry. So they're basically like if you play Pokemon Go, it's like they'll show up on a map, got to catch them all, Pedomon, like a bunch of like playing Pedomon. We got to catch them all, got to catch all the predators. There's so many different ones, but they're on the registry. It's kind of like playing Pokemon Go, and they're on the fucking on that little if you look on the search thing, it shows every single one where they're at. That's the government's fault. They don't hold them long enough, and then they bond themselves out, and then they'll wind up doing the same shit over and over again. So you can't blame predator catchers for doing their job. You can't sit there and say they release them when the government releases them anyway. It doesn't matter if it's Alex catching preds or Tommy catching preds or anybody else. It's the government, our corrupted government anywhere around the world, releasing these motherfuckers so that way they can go on the sex offender registry to where they can possibly repeat the same shit over and over again. It's kind of like a drug addict. If a drug addict is not strong enough to withstand the drugs that he's done in their past, he or she has done in their past, they're going to repeat the process of being a drug addict. So that's the way the predators are, thieves, liars, cheaters. It's all the same shit. If you have a repeat offense and you don't learn your lesson from the very beginning, you're going to repeat it over and over and over again. It's a rare instance that people can learn from their mistakes and progress and be smart and move on. The bottom line is we don't see that in these days because we see a lot of selfish motherfuckers going out there doing selfish things and not learning from their mistakes. They keep biting their tongues and then continuously going around fucking their life up and fucking every scenario up too. And then you got some of these fake pred catchers, like the idiot named Cole that sits there and lies about him being part of GAP when I've looked up GAP, and I guarantee you many of you have looked up the GAP, Garbage Men Against Predators. It doesn't exist. All it showed was him putting 2 posts, long paragraphical posts out about his fake organization. So you haven't caught nobody. I've debunked this time and time again, and so has a lot of other people. So Cole, you'll never stop losing, and you'll never stop getting wrecked and owned and all these other words. That's why we laugh and mock at you. We throw your words back at you because you guys are pathetic. You're not getting anywhere. You're just spewing out the same shit.
No. They hold on, OBM. They actually are getting somewhere. I mean, they're really extortion charges. It's definitely the stolen valor, pred catching, stolen valor accusations. Third Amendment violation. That's where they're getting themselves, really, and admitting having to work with Tele across the seas, and it's pretty serious, but they're definitely getting somewhere.
Well, Gomez, like I was saying, like that Liz comment in the chat. Like, to me, a real job is going out there, making money, busting your ass, and doing something productive. I think it should be the government's requirement to catch sickos, but you got good people out there wanting to catch these sickos because the government is not doing their job. They've never really been doing their due diligence to try to help people, no matter what government. It could be our government, it could be a government all across the world, because all of our governments are corrupted. They really are. And some of these people think that we're fucking conspiracy theorists when the conspiracy theorists have always been true about all this shit that's been going on. But you got all these simple-minded sheep that actually think that the government's doing something good. Doing what good? Seriously, nothing. All these evil motherfuckers out there, and you got good people that are catching them, and then you got all these weirdos going after the people that are trying to put the bad guys in jail. But it's the government is the one that's releasing these cocksuckers on a bond, and then they have to go under a sex offender registry. And then you got all these people going around murdering people. They should be life in prison or executed by lethal injection or the chair. No, some of these people that went off and killed somebody, they get out within 20, 30, 40 years. That's how corrupted our system is. So I put my faith in God. I don't trust, how the government is. I put my faith in God. That's all I do. So if more people put their faith in the Lord, I promise you, a lot of your feelings will heal over time. So, I mean, I don't trust the government. I know a lot of you don't trust the government. We shouldn't, because they're going to fail us anyway. Don't matter who the president is. I mean, we wasn't around hundreds of years ago. Like, we wasn't around when George Washington became president and Abraham Lincoln and all this other shit. We wasn't around when that happened. So we don't know how they did their job. You know what I mean? We don't know what happened. It's kind of like I was born when the Reagan years started, like when Reagan got in office. I came around at that time, and Gomez, I think you came around when Nixon and Carter was around. But people don't understand, don't matter who's in charge. They're not really running the show. It's the motherfuckers that have more money than everybody else. They're running the show. So we're screwed either way. I'm just saying, put faith in God and you'll be all right. That's why my mind is always at ease as it is because I have faith. If I didn't have faith, I would have crashed out a long time ago. So some of these people need to really have faith or they're just going to crash out. So I do pray for everybody, even the ones that don't like me, the ones that spread lies about you and me, Gomez, and all the people in the chat. I still pray for them, and I have no hatred towards them at all. I just think they really need to wake the fuck up and quit lying to themselves and living off an imaginary fragile ego that they have, because their ego is fragile and very imaginary. So I think they really need to wake the fuck up before it's too late. And I don't think it's too late, as long as we have life in our bodies and breath, we should never give up. But I don't think it's too late to save the world. Some people are like, oh, it's too late. I don't believe it. I believe there's always a way. We can make things better, but there's just people too lazy to do that, That's just my beliefs. If I'm rambling at some of the things, I apologize. It's just sometimes people got to learn that if you continue to make the same mistakes over and over again, the more likely they're not going to stop making the same mistakes. They're just going to continue to make the same ones over and over again. And that's been my problem with certain people around me, and even in my personal life. I see them literally making the same mistakes over and over and over and over again. They never learn from it. But that's their problem. They have to figure out and fight. But with me, when I've made mistakes, I've had to turn to God and to help me through it. And I've been through a lot, but I still go on, man. So have faith and you'll be all right, ladies and gentlemen. So like I said, sometimes I ramble on, other times I speak from the heart. And some people don't like that when you speak from the heart and you tell the truth. They hate you for that. Well, it doesn't bother me like it did in the very beginning when I started my YouTube journey on here, because I went under different names. Even Gomez remembers me under a couple different names in the past. But think about this, there's always a beginning journey in your life, whether you're on the YouTube platform or any other social media platform or your personal life. When you screw up, you got to take accountability for it, and you got to learn from it, and you got to grow from it. And that's the problem with some of these people. They don't learn and grow from their past. They hold on to the past. They don't want to continue to move forward. I've already moved forward.
Here's a good example. OBM, here's a good example of that. Is I was thinking like yesterday, and I was like, man, there's a few of the Tetro videos out there where we're blasting each other, and they're on channels I don't even have access to anymore. So I'm surprised, right, and I'm surprised that some of those videos aren't trying to be brought up. Look, they were fighting back then. What's going on now? And I get my opportunities to go, OBM, we were blasting each other, and those videos are there, and they're kind of stuck, and it was fun, right? You'll learn
exactly. But if you think about it, hey Gomez, if you think about it though, man, we've all taken accountability for our actions. That was the past. I mean, we had a good time. I mean, like even the ones I used to have those, and I don't think I had those videos anymore. I don't. I have a lot of streams that I liked, the music streams and stuff like that. But the thing is, man, I let it all go. And I'm glad that people can, if they can, they can rewatch those videos. It was fun. The thing is, we argued out of a misunderstanding. We corrected that misunderstanding. We've been cool ever since. And we've been cool for what, a couple years now, maybe 3 years. Same thing for Velomon.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're not the only one that all of a sudden sees through the facade that's being, the shadow that's being cast, right? You're able to look on the other side of the fence going, holy shit, what's going on here? And some people want to be able to see through that, and some people want to see division and hate and scumbaggery. And, I can't help what people want or need or whatever. But
and you know something though, Gomez, it's like some people want me to, just because I like certain people they don't like, they want me to hate them, or they're gonna fucking throw me under the bus. I've had that happen with me, and I've had it happen. But the thing is, I mean, I know that you and Velomon, you have your thing and everything, like me and him did. I have no issues with him no more. Me and him patched it all up too. Like I have no issues with Yo Mama, Mr. Jones, all that, because it was all over some misunderstanding over the J-Man thing. It wasn't because of the fact that J-Man didn't like my singing. It's because I explained it. It's because J-Man would come in with different accounts and pick fights with me. I have no issue with J-Man no more, and I hope he's wherever he's at, he's retired or whatever from trolling. I hope he's doing wonderful. But the thing is, that was then. Like me, I have so much going on now, and I see some of the people that still hold a grudge against me, like Larp Busters. That motherfucker, he thinks he's a Billy Badass. He's talked shit on me, you, Velomon, and a bunch of other people in this community, and he thinks he's tough, and he ain't about shit. He repeats himself bad. He's like Gandalf. That's another fucking lying idiot. And I heard he's from Canada, apparently, and he likes to change his voice and pretend he's somebody else. He's been on my panel once or twice. He acts like, at the time he said, the people I had on my panel were flat earthers. No, they weren't. I've had a lot of different people on my panels. Some of them were flat earth believers. That's their belief. So whatever people believe, if I don't agree with them, I'm going to point it out, which I did, but I still respect their views and opinions and their beliefs. I'm not going to sit there and bash them because they believe the earth is flat. I don't really like talking about the way the earth looks. I've even been upfront about that. But with my panel, I've told people, you can say whatever you want. Say and do whatever you want. It's a freedom panel. I just wish more people like you and me and other people would have that freedom panel to have a right to say whatever you want without people trying to censor you. So, I mean, that's what I believe. But the thing is, Larpbuster still continues to hold lies and hatred towards me. Gandalf with some of his accounts, that Mike State Actor account, Mark Smith. I mean, these guys have been around for a while, and they continue to lie and lie and lie and lie over and over again. But the thing is, I'm not even mad at them. I mean, I feel bad for them because they have to spend much of their lives continuously spreading lies and disinformation from people and causing problems. So I have no hatred towards them either.
Oh no, we're laughing over here. It's quite an interesting scenario on the daily. I was blasting Rob Lowe yesterday. Hey, is anyone going to put him under investigation? Rob Lowe, come on. NV Cap Fireside Ryan, he wants to do some oversight work. Well, hey, start with the investigation on Rob Lowe. And all of a sudden, holy shit, it was Velomon comes out of the woodwork. There's the garbage man interjecting and with what he's got. But it looks like a lot of damage control for state actors. But then all of a sudden, you're called the state actor or the agent or something like that. And that's Larp Buster's move for some reason. But what he's doing is he's gatekeeping for someone like Tommy. Who can talk to Tommy? Oh, you can't talk to that guy. Wait a minute, we're on open. You can click a link, and that's what you're supposed to do is start talking. But once you've got gatekeepers involved on who can really talk to who, or tell their story themselves, right? That's some gatekeeping shit. And yeah, you're right, Shelly. Hate junkies. It's some serious stuff.
See, I like simply just mocking the shit out of them. Like I use their stupid fucking kitty word, because it is kitty words. I mean, they're childish. I use it against them. They think I take this shit seriously. I don't. Neither do you. I mean, we see how stupid some of these people are, like me and you and Shizzle, even Shelly in the chat. There's many of us, we don't take them seriously because they're not serious people. When they have to sit there and make up imaginary organizations to make themselves look good and feel better, I mean, that's pathetic and, simpy, But, I mean, we're going to continue to laugh at them as long as we're here. I mean, they have nothing better to do than to start shit in different communities. And we all see this shit go on in real time, too. And there's many people that have been recording this. Like, there is good channels that do this shit, Like I've seen some videos that Haystack Sniper's done and the Panel channel. There's several channels out there and that capture a lot of this shit in real time. Not even just when I used to capture stuff. I've had people send me clips and stuff like, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Their mindset, their evil, their intentions. They're sitting there and tricking a lot of the people around them, not telling the truth. Like, I still didn't get that apology, Blazin'. I apologize to you for that comment I made a while back. You still didn't apologize to me for the much evil comment that you left me. But hey, I'm not mad at you. I mean, you still need to be honest about you doxing people in your shit. Because when I was subbed to your channel, you doxed a lot of different people. And you tried to dox me a couple times and it didn't work because it's difficult to try to dox me for the fact that I go under different aliases. And I have different kinds of things that I use, especially one I created that works perfectly. I got this thing that I created where no matter what panel I'm on or whatnot, I can't be tracked or traced at all. And it's way better than a VPN, way better. And I've improved it perfectly. I don't like to give it out to the public because of the fact that people could try to track out who I am in that detail. But I can always try to bring it out some sort of way to where nobody will know it's me that created this, because I think I actually respect people's privacy. I do. And in the past, I was stupid because I said I was going to dox a certain person, and I never did. I never did because I bit my tongue, and I was wrong for saying I was going to dox a certain person or certain people. I'm not going to do that. I do respect people's privacies, and I don't believe in doxing people. If you know somebody's a danger, you need to tell the police. You need to let the police handle it. Don't sit there and try to dox that person, because you could be doxing a person that has done nothing wrong, that has a good record, clean record, and you could be putting not their life in danger, but the lives of their family members and their friends. That's why I don't believe in doxing. And I wish, Gomez, people would understand that, because there's a lot of good people in this community that are being doxed for no fucking reason. I think it's because they have a different opinion than somebody else's. Yeah, I'm going to dox you because you don't believe in everything that I say, or you don't believe anything I say. I'm going to dox. No. If they don't agree with you, or if they agree with you on something, just leave them alone. Just let them have an opinion and go on with their life, whether they troll you or not. As long as they ain't going trying to hurt you, like literally try to hurt you, which I haven't seen anybody try, But that's the problem. They take it too seriously. I mean, I could leave today, tomorrow, next week, whenever, because I'm not going to tell anybody when I leave. But they're still going to keep bringing us up because they have nothing else. You know what I mean, Gomez? Even when you leave this platform and you remove everything, they're still going to bring you up because they have nothing left. And we figure that out. They have nothing left. And they'll never have anything. So, I mean, it's sad, dude. I mean, it's sad it's come to this scenario with these individuals, when they have to sit there and fabricate lies and make things up to make themselves look better, feel better, act better. No. Like, it's easy for any of us to just delete everything and move on, or even make a new YouTube account, and just all you come on and do is watch videos and like they have like wrestling channels now. You can watch wrestling events and shit. You could do that. There are some people that are just fucking leaving this whole fucking thing behind and making brand new channels so they won't deal with this shit, this repetitive shit that these people do. But me, I'm just going to hang off for a little while. You just will never know when I'm going to leave. And just in case if I don't come back, to all the good people that have treated me right, to all the honest people that have showed me respect, I love you guys. I appreciate you, and I always will. But to the ones that hate me, I don't have no hatred towards you. I just wish you can do better, and I pray to God that you find help for yourselves, because spreading lies about me and other people is not going to be good for you in the end. That's a fact. But Gomez, thank you for having me on your panel, man. God bless you, and God bless Shizzle. God bless Shelly. God bless everybody that was in your chat today. God bless everybody that's listening. And I do mean everybody. I'm not going to say, oh, certain people that are cool with me. There's a lot of people cool with me. I'm sorry. But the certain people that don't like me, I still say God bless you to you, because you're still good people. You just got to find your way. You got to find your way back to that good-heartedness. So thank you for having me on panel, Gomez. I appreciate it. I'm going to type in chat, so if you want to wrench me, you can if you want to.
Oh, you weren't wrenched?
No, like that was the new, like my original OBM account was mass reported. It's kind of like the Truth Hurts Enterprise. The one I had, that was mass reported too. So I've had that undefeated. Yeah. See, it's okay. I'm not mad. Yeah. I was with the Truth Hurts Enterprise, because I had that for almost 10 fucking years. I had that for almost 10 years. That account, the Truth Hurts Enterprise one I had. But I got over it eventually, and then this other one, it don't matter. But it's just that all it is to me is just a channel, a profile. I could always make another one, you know. It doesn't matter to me. But I've had the undefeated champion one for a while, so I'll talk. Hey, you have a good one too, Shelly. God bless you, Rue. God bless you. Hey, Liz, Shizzle, FCC, all the other great people. What's up? Drop a like. Don't be a cunt. Joking. Just drop a like, man. Keep the positive spreading going. God bless you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. OBM. Okay, that's why I just like let him go. Usually is on a time crunch to where I might not be on as much of a time crunch as he is when I get to stream. But anyways, yeah, I'm doing good. Wish there could have been a little more fishing in my early season. That's when I like to get out there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I tend to lose channels too when I start going heavy in on them. And but it's part of it. Have them lined up. It's who isn't losing channels. They might act like they might, you know, have a little action. That's just to blend in. Yeah, it's all just a stupid game, and I don't have time for that anymore. It was fun while it lasted. Right? I think even Cosette, she's wrenched here, and she's made videos about me, and oh no. But they're from 5 years ago, they're gonna use them. That's funny. And I think there's still even, you know, a little bit of you know, not much of a common ground there with Cosette, but it's okay. Yeah, I'm just in an amazement on how much BS you can try to stack on someone. That way, it's like when I finally get to address some of these things, it's like, this would take me a couple of days to kind of explain out the way they've been able to wrap up a couple of few narratives with some BS detail. But yeah, stock accounts that are supposed to look legit, but just, oh, we're going to take this guy to court. I haven't had time to do all these things, but that I'm being accused of. But hey, I will entertain it because as busy as I am, and I'm listening in, and oh man, the fantasy that comes out is just hilarious. But yeah, and that's why there's so much fantasy coming out, and the people that find that are supposed to be just in shock and awe, and then confused on who, was that AI or what's going on there, right? Anyway, so yeah, some people just shouldn't be so plugged into the internet like they are. And how do you regulate that? But my audit was more for the copyright and well, the waste of tax-paying dollars on having online police that are just there as well, shit disinfo agents for the Ministry of Truth, right? It really actually did boil down like that. It did. Oh my gosh. But yeah, it actually comes down to there probably are quite a bit of sellouts that took some type of either plea deal or contract to just like troll people, their targets off the internet, try to get their channels taken down, make them chase ghosts, sock counts, shit like that. We found that. But yeah, it's interesting. Did you get left out in the streets by yourself with no more snitch immunity? Is that what happened? That's what it seemed like. Blink twice if you were a captive and they let you go now. You had to be a prick on the internet to their targets. One thing OBM didn't bring up was conspiracy facts. There's such thing as, oh wow, here's a theory because of A, B, and C, and oh okay, wow, that can all equal D, and oh okay, that makes no, it's not supposed to make sense. You got to stick on A. Stick right on the surface of things going on the way it's being dictated to you, and that's what I find highly disappointing in some people, where they just can't go below the surface. But the ones that are, like, people that can throw down on beats and lyrics and shit like that, it's pretty cool. Most of you. Some are trying to blend in, like FCC with his surface beats that he thinks is underground, trying to break in. They're going to get beat up. Like Constipation, him painting his fingernails the other night thinking he's going to war. You haven't broke into the underground, dude. You're not allowed. They're gonna just beat you up when you think they're gonna smell snitch, okay? Influencer. Seriously, that Walmart vinyl that he's been influencing for Constipation, I'm telling you, you're gonna be able to smell that in the venue even. Break it out. They're like, oh, that vinyl's from Walmart. Everybody runs out of the venue because it stinks. It's all stinky. It sucked. Like Predward being the front doorman, the strong-armed doorman Predward for Wally World. No shit. And then you go inside, they got the lab-grown beef, right? It's 100% real, right? They put on it. No. But hey, I'm just trying to tell you what I might know, and if I'm wrong, oh my gosh, prove me wrong. But well, sometimes it works out. Sometimes it's like, ooh, I'm glad I was wrong about that. But yeah, like OBM said too, just stay in the word. Know that there's abundance and grace, and yeah, you got to almost pray for the people that are against you too. And that's how, it's how great corporations were built, apparently, by haters. Either hate watching or hate buying. Anyways, but I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm just every once in a while I'm tuning in. I'm getting my abs worked on from my belly laughing, especially in the morning. I miss the Lisa Lake videos in the morning. Fresh videos that just give you the bellyache laugh to where you're getting your abs work out. And sometimes you got to be the laughs that provide the abs workout. You got to, everybody just take your turn. Oh my gosh, we're human. Mistakes are going to be made. Just try not to LARP too hard, right? Especially where you're just crying and super fanning it up on your own channel, like the GarbageWoman. He tagged me like 5 or 6 times this morning. I'm like, all right, I'll go live. I can take a hint when being requested to go live. Oh, but then, I'm a pigeon for doing it. No, I like going live sometimes, even in retirement, still every once in a while. But who was peddling the other day? That guy goes live every day, twice a day. Man, you go look back in the live, right? You're digging in, like, wait a minute. Why are people lying about this guy? Anyways. Hey, some of it's real to point out bigger hypocrisies and, LARPing. Trying to go IRL in a sense, in a LARP style to where, I mean, the locksmith video was just such a good experiment in a sense to where to make a video for, I mean, especially requested too at that time, but where you're going on location in the public because you're looking for Locke, possibly getting an interview, but he's gone. Then you produce the video, you go on location, you get a wood chipper rented big truck and put it in the background, see who can notice it. You're doing a little bit more production going on than you're just average, well, maybe getting arrested from doing an audit, right? Internal audit going in on them. Anyways. But yeah, that comes out, and then Kim A doxes herself. I didn't go to Buckeye just to go film a LARP video either. See, hey, I'm in this town. I'm just going to film here and just do it, right? And I was kind of the director of it, and then had, foot soldier type thug hired to play, I thought was play the part, but sometimes they are really all of a sudden, right? Somebody that shows up for the part. Whoa, he plays the part a little too well there. Yeah, but yeah, that wasn't to go to Buckeye to actually go like that's being peddled from Glaze and Scar, right? He went to Buckeye to go mess with Kim and go to her house, and that's how far it's gone to where I had no idea Kim lived in Buckeye until after I went there. The video is produced a week later, comes out, and all of a sudden Kim was like, "You are doxing my town." Whoa, didn't even know you lived in that town. But that's the type of things that are being peddled if you kind of follow it out. And then, yeah, she's calling every freaking dang agency possible on me. And still, we've got all we go by is the writ of mandamus, which is really important. So to stick by the writ of mandamus for when you want to have your own drama LARP show, and you're going to get a lot of calls made on you that aren't true. And it's like, can they really track those people and get them for perjury? And they know they've got, like, Rodney called in. I think he got his one or twice, 2 shots to call in and get them all up, get them all riled up in the hive. But and then from there, it's it becomes harassment. They know it. So yeah, it's all fun and games until somebody really does want to show up, but it's more on the friendly side instead of adversive or confrontational. They much rather do pushback games and try to show up like they're cool with you, but you're either up under investigation, and that's their little plea deal shill to try to gather as much information as possible on you. Then to use that once it just doesn't pan out that any agencies can come after you, because especially the writ of mandamus, then all of a sudden they just go triple down and going harder in the paint to impress a few people. And so it's like I just still laugh at it, and yeah, of course they're not going to hit my join link, but always wanting the smoke, tagging me like 5, 6, 7 times this morning. There, garbage woman, really wanting my attention. But I don't mind for a few minutes, anyways. Oh yeah, we're gonna at a good point too, where I could probably take off. There's a lot that I could really address, but don't feel like it. And I don't know. There's always charges being. I'm always accused of having some type of charge, and from these LARP courts, but I don't know why I'm supposed to show up to LARP court at 6 a.m. That's pretty. I just tell them I don't operate on pred time. That's predator type behavior. We're trying to control someone. And if you don't show up, they're the ones that were late actually to LARP court. It's no BS. Garbage woman. He won't admit to that. He was late to his own LARP court, defaulted, but I was out of there when she was late. But I was the one that defaulted. Right. Okay. But I like playing LARP court. It's fun for the drama LARP show, news and entertainment, and even if it is somebody's real life that ends up, they do something funny and it's documented, I might just, want to tell a joke about it, but I don't want to try to stay away from people that actually hurt other people. That's kind of, we want to get it to where people aren't hurting other people. By just kind of, hey, let's just bring it all out, put it all on the table there. Especially with those apple teenies there, garbage woman. I don't know really if you guys comprehend the severity of that situation. Are you really going out to the dumpster dive bars and just roofing random women with your apple teenies to get them home? How many women have chewed their arm off early in the morning to get away from you? Oh, see, and you tell on yourself. I had to show somebody the other day the admission from the garbage woman and using apple teenies to peel the panties off the ladies, and that's pretty serious admission there. Then he's thinking about me first thing in the morning, and that's just it's kind of weird. Their whole gay parade. Yeah, and then try to project Oh, I mean, the accusations are so far and wide. It's incredible. I don't know what to tell you. But I sure hope NV Cap, as much as he saw as far as the opposition with the Rob Lowe in his chat yesterday, I sure hope NV Cap Ryan starts off on the right foot, puts that fake news agent put to a desk job so he's not seen in freaking public anymore. The Rob Blow character puts him under investigation in his new oversight LARP and actually starts off on the right foot there. Oh man, you put that in his chat and they're gonna censor the shit out of you. They did it. They did. Even Fellowmon had to pop up. Oh, there's cocks in a sock. I'm just asking to see if anybody's going to put Rob Lowe on blast for the harassment of a pred catcher using the once John Benet Ramsey suspect. The flip, right? Yeah, we can keep on going from there, but it's just not worth it. Because they've taken it so stupid and dark and the other way. Like I put on my community post page, and that's mainly where, like, you know, I'm giving that a little bit of attention here and there. But anyways, hey, glad some people could join in, check it out. And I really wish I did have the time to sit here and just lay it all out, but I don't. Be great though. Maybe one day. Anyways, all right, I gotta take off. Peace out. Thanks for tuning in, checking this out, and who knows when the next time will be. Peace.